This video is going to cover the basic interface elements and some basic practices within Solidworks. So we'll begin. This is what you see when you open up Solidworks. You might also see this, which is a resources palette, and there's a bunch of other palettes for managing a library, file explorer, view palette, appearances, scenes, decals, and properties. Such as materials and things like that. We'll deal with some of that later, but for now we'll just close this to give ourselves the maximum amount of space. So we're going to create a new file. So you select new and you immediately have the option of a part, an assembly, or a drawing. A part is a single model, an assembly is a collection of models, and a drawing is basically a spec drawing based on the parameters that you input for the models that you create. We'll get to that later as well. So for right now, we'll just make sure part is selected. Click OK. And the window opens up. You have a dynamic dialog box here, which allows you to sort of change parameters or select planes, which we'll get to in a second. Over here in the lower right, you can select the measurements you want to work in terms of imperial, inches, pounds, seconds, millimeters, grams, seconds, centimeters, grams, seconds. I'll leave that up to you based on what you're most comfortable with. So we'll select the top plane, and you have to select a plane or a surface before you start drawing in the space, because you have to anchor it in a specific orientation. So we'll select this plane. Then we'll go to Sketch, which is where the 2D drawing tools are. We'll select a circle. You can see the viewport immediately reorients, so you're looking directly at the top plane. Now you can see we have the circle tool here, and as we hover, you can see you're getting different hints. This means that it's a defined relationship when you get the dash, horizontal or vertical. This is actually going to anchor it as a reference point to the center locus of the drawing space. And typically when you draw your first space, you want to do this. So I'm going to select here, hover over that, click when you get that green tip, and then you can see it's giving me a radius of 2.22. 2.1, I'll say I want a 2-inch, but I'm not going to sit here and stress out about that, because as soon as I draw it, the dialog box over here changes, and I can just type in 2 inches, and it'll set the circle to exactly that. Once I'm happy with that, I can click OK. Up here in the Heads Up toolbar, you can change your orientation. So right now we're looking at a top view. If you want to go to an isometric view, you can go there. So you have a whole variety of top, front, side, trimetric, dimetric. So basically you're just moving through these to change your different views. You can also, if you have a 2-button mouse with a clickable scroll wheel, click on the scroll wheel, and then you can basically rotate around the center of the selected object. So I'm going to go back to isometric view, and now I'm going to turn this into a 3D object. So it's still selected. I'm going to go to Extruded Boss Base, and as soon as I select that, you can see it immediately gave it some depth. I can grab this arrow and change the depth, and again you can see it's indicating the parameters, so I could make it 1 inch. I could also go here and say 0.75 and hit enter, and then once I'm happy with that, again click OK to accept that. So now I've got a cylinder segment. And once I have once I get started, I want to save this. So I go to File, Save. And I'm just going to call this 01 model A. And save it. Okay, so those are the basics of just getting started. Remember to select a plane to draw, then draw using Sketch in 2D, and then you can use Extruded Boss base to actually give a 2D drawing some thickness.